Sarah, a mother of two from Ohio, sat at her kitchen table, the morning sun streaming through the window as her children played in the background. This was her quiet moment, a brief pause in a busy day, and she used it to tackle her weekly Amazon order, a ritual that had become second nature over the years. She opened her laptop, ready to restock the essentials her family depended on. Amazon had always been her go-to, a place where she could find everything from groceries to birthday gifts with just a few clicks. But today was different. She needed diapers and gluten-free pasta, staples in her household, but the familiar brands were nowhere to be found. Instead, the listings were filled with unfamiliar names and the prices had doubled, sometimes even tripled. Confused and a little frustrated, Sarah searched for other essentials, her phone charger, a birthday gift for her son, kitchen towels. Each search brought more disappointment, fewer choices, higher prices, and items she'd never heard of before. The once endless digital marketplace now felt strangely empty and unwelcoming, as if the shelves themselves were being cleared out. Sarah wondered if she was the only one noticing these changes, or if something bigger was happening. She reached for her phone and texted her neighborhood group. "Is anyone else having trouble with Amazon? Prices are crazy and so much is out of stock." She hesitated before hitting send, unsure if she was overreacting, but almost instantly replies poured in. Friends complained they couldn't find air fryers, coffee orders were canceled at the last minute, and even basic cleaning supplies were missing from their carts. Everyone had noticed the change. The frustration was shared, and the sense of confusion was growing. It became clear this wasn't just Sarah's problem. Across her town, and indeed across the country, millions of households were facing the same strange new reality. The convenience and affordability that had defined Amazon for years had quietly eroded, leaving shoppers feeling stranded and uncertain. There was no press release, no breaking news alert, just a slow, subtle shift that had crept in almost unnoticed. Digital shelves were thinning, and the familiar Amazon vans that once zipped through neighborhoods were making fewer and fewer stops. Sarah closed her laptop, unsettled and uneasy, her mind racing with questions about what was happening. The simple act of online shopping had become a stark reminder of a much larger economic storm brewing just beneath the surface. Across America, families were waking up to a new reality, one where the certainty of next-day delivery and low prices could no longer be taken for granted. The retail giant they had come to rely on was suddenly a shadow of its former self, its promise of abundance and convenience slipping away. What had happened to Amazon? How could such a powerful company falter so quietly? And what did it mean for families like Sarah's, who depended on it for so much of their daily lives? The answers, Sarah would soon learn, pointed to a seismic shift in the American economy, one that would touch every household and change the way people shopped forever. To truly understand why Sarah's shopping cart is empty, we need to look at a major policy change, a 145% tariff imposed by the Trump administration. This single decision sent shockwaves through the entire retail landscape, affecting not just Sarah but millions of shoppers across the country. So what exactly is a tariff? A tariff is essentially a tax placed on goods that are brought into the country from abroad. The idea is to make foreign products more expensive, so that American-made goods seem like a better deal. It's a way for the government to encourage people to buy local, supporting domestic businesses and jobs. Let's break it down with a simple example. Imagine Amazon wants to import a pair of headphones that cost $100. With a 145% tariff, the government tacks on an extra $145 in taxes. Suddenly, that $100 pair of headphones now costs $245 before Amazon even adds shipping costs or tries to make a profit. That's a massive jump in price, and it changes everything about how products are sold. Now, Amazon faces a tough decision. They can either absorb the extra cost themselves, which would mean losing money on every sale, or they can pass the cost on to customers. If they choose the latter, the products become so expensive that most people simply can't afford them anymore. For a company like Amazon, which built its empire on selling huge volumes of affordable goods to millions of people, this situation is nothing short of a nightmare. Their entire business model is suddenly at risk. Many of Amazon's best-selling products are imported from overseas. With the new tariff, the cost of these items skyrockets, making it nearly impossible for Amazon to keep prices low or maintain their usual inventory. The result? Store shelves start to empty out, prices for electronics and other goods shoot up, and customers see their online orders canceled or delayed. The shopping experience changes overnight. This wasn't a temporary glitch or a technical error. It was a direct and immediate consequence of the new tariff policy, and it was felt everywhere, from big cities to small towns. Companies like Amazon, along with countless other retailers, were suddenly forced to rethink their entire approach to doing business in the United States. Strategies that had worked for years no longer made sense. The 145% tariff didn't just make things a little more expensive. It disrupted supply chains, emptied distribution centers, and upended the entire retail system. The effects rippled outward, touching every part of the economy. Shoppers like Sarah were the first to feel the sting. They walked into stores or browsed online only to find higher prices, fewer choices, and empty shelves where their favorite products used to be. But the impact didn't stop there. The ripple effects of the tariff soon reached every corner of the economy, affecting businesses, workers, and families across the nation. The 145% tariff was more than just a government policy. It was an economic earthquake, shaking the foundations of how Americans shop, work, and live. And this was only the beginning. The changes set in motion by the tariff would continue to unfold, reshaping the economy in ways no one could have fully predicted. The fallout from this decision would go on to transform American shopping habits, impact jobs in countless industries, and alter daily life for millions of people. Amazon couldn't survive the tariff by business as usual. Instead of a public exit, they chose a silent retreat, quietly reducing their US presence. Procurement teams stopped ordering thousands of tariff-hit products. Once existing stock sold out, it wasn't replaced, hence the empty digital shelves. Amazon rerouted goods to markets like Europe and India, where tariffs didn't apply. The US was no longer the focus. Other regions became more profitable. Layoffs and shift reductions followed, but were staggered to avoid headlines. Seasonal contracts weren't renewed and hiring froze. The company managed the narrative, framing changes as adjusting to demand. In reality, it was a calculated retreat to protect profits. For shoppers and workers, the change was sudden and confusing. For Amazon, it was survival. Amazon's quiet pullback came at a staggering cost, an estimated $13 billion. The biggest hit was the devaluation of US assets. Fulfillment centers and logistics networks built for high-volume sales now sat underused. Asset write-downs slashed billions from Amazon's balance sheet. Lost revenue was next. Halting sales of thousands of products meant billions in missed business. Stock prices tumbled, wiping out value for investors and employees alike. Downsizing cost millions more in severance and contract penalties. Rerouting supply chains required new investments overseas. The $13 billion figure combined asset losses, lost sales, and the cost of retreat. For Amazon, it was a financial shockwave. For the market, it was a warning sign. The tariff's impact was real, immediate, and massive. And Amazon wasn't alone. Amazon's retreat hit workers first, sending shockwaves through the massive network of employees who kept the company running day and night. Hours were slashed, overtime vanished almost overnight, and layoffs rolled out quietly, leaving many uncertain about their future. Communities that depended on Amazon jobs felt the pain deeply, as local economies took a sudden hit and families worried about making ends meet. Shoppers were frustrated and angry. What used to take 5 minutes online now meant driving to multiple stores, waiting in long lines, and often paying more for basic goods. Social media exploded with hashtags like #AmazonEmpty and #PrimeIsOver, as people vented about delayed deliveries and missing products. Small businesses selling on Amazon saw sales collapse overnight, losing their main source of income and scrambling to find new customers. Many couldn't find affordable American-made alternatives and faced layoffs of their own as supply chains broke down and costs soared. Some hoped local retailers might benefit, seeing a rare chance to compete again and reconnect with their communities. "Maybe this is a good thing," said one hardware store owner. "It forces people to shop local and support the businesses that have always been here." But for most, the disruption was overwhelming, as routines were upended and uncertainty grew about what would come next. The loss of convenience and jobs was deeply felt, with families struggling to pay bills and workers searching for new opportunities. The retail landscape had changed, seemingly overnight, leaving both cities and small towns scrambling to adapt. The ripple effects spread far beyond Amazon's warehouses, touching delivery drivers, suppliers, and entire industries that relied on the giant. The nation was forced to rethink how it shopped, worked, and did business, as old habits clashed with a new reality. The shock was only beginning, and no one knew how long the aftershocks would last or what the future would hold. The 145% tariff sparked fierce debate. Supporters saw it as a way to protect American jobs and revive manufacturing. They argued the short-term pain was worth long-term independence. Critics called it economic self-sabotage, warning it would raise prices and hurt the poorest families. Many products simply aren't made in the US anymore. Rebuilding would take years. Retaliation from other countries could trigger a trade war, harming American exports. The nation was divided. Was this bold protectionism or reckless isolation? The answer would shape America's future. The tariff was rooted in Trump's America First doctrine. The goal forced companies to bring manufacturing back to the US by making imports prohibitively expensive. It was a direct challenge to decades of globalization. The administration saw the pain as necessary to reset the rules of trade. The hope was to pressure other countries into better deals. Amazon's struggles were seen as collateral damage in a larger economic battle. The objective: tear down the old system and rebuild it for American advantage. For the administration, short-term sacrifice was the price of long-term renewal. Amazon wasn't alone. Walmart, Target, and tech giants like Apple faced the same crisis. Shelves emptied, prices soared, and inflation spread across retail. The auto industry struggled as tariffs drove up costs for imported materials. Even American-made products became more expensive. Some small businesses tried to fill the gap with made-in-America goods, but most just tried to survive. Cost-cutting, delayed investments, and uncertainty became the norm. The ripple effect plunged the corporate world into crisis. The entire economy was feeling the shock. America stands at a crossroads. Will it double down on protectionism, accepting higher prices for the promise of industrial renewal? Or will it reverse course, lower tariffs, and rejoin the global economy? The scars from this disruption will last for years. Trust with consumers and global partners has been shaken. The nation must choose free trade and prosperity or independence at a cost. Sarah's empty cart is a symbol of this dilemma. The decisions made now will shape American life for decades to come.